Kia ora and welcome to Cinema in Context, where we discuss all things film and the connections between. My name is Jeremy Downing.
I'm William Chen.
And I'm Sarah Watt.
And each month at Cinema in Context, we discuss two films, one current and one retrospective with some connection. It could be the same director, the same actor, or a similar theme. This month, we are discussing Wuthering Heights, which came out recently this year, and Romeo and Juliet, or Romeo plus Juliet, which came out in 1996. The connection being they are both classic texts retold for modern times. That's nice and tidy, isn't it?
Yeah, tidy.
Yeah, cool. I reckon we're going to start with Romeo plus Juliet.
Yeah.
So Sarah, give us a bit of an overview of this really new contemporary text.
Yeah, I mean, what a modern story, guys, eh? So modern. Kids, drugs, partying,
Suicide.
underage sex.
Yeah.
And immaturity, quite frankly. Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to my personal feelings on William Shakespeare's most famous text.
Nothing's going to happen, eh? This is a one-hit wonder, really.
Well, I mean, who is he?
Yeah.
Anyway, so, all right, guys, Romeo and Juliet. So, there have been many adaptations of Shakespeare's famous play over the years. Zeffirelli did a classic one that we may or may not get around to referencing in this podcast. And then Australian director Baz Luhrmann, then probably best known for Strictly Ballroom,
Which we've done before on the podcast.
Yes, we have, decided to do what proved to be a genius modern update by using the source material text pretty much, I would say, with no mucking about whatsoever, but a whole lot of visual cues that enabled it to be relevant relevant. Casting a very young and handsome, 21-year-old, but looking 12, Leonardo DiCaprio, and a young Claire Danes as the titular Romeo and Juliet. And he modernized the setting of the film to Verona Beach, California, and yet, as I say, in a genius move, decided to keep with the old language. And the film was amazing. It was a hit and incredibly well regarded for the way that it was done, I would say. And it has been played in high schools ever since.
Nice. William, give us an overview of 2026's Wuthering Heights.
Of course, Jeremy. So, Wuthering Heights, or should we say, quote-unquote, Wuthering Heights. It's funny hearing the filmmakers talk about this. They want the quote marks to be in place. So, okay, quote-unquote, Wuthering Heights it is. Is the latest from director and bad girl of indie cinema, Emerald Fennell. Kind of adapting the famous Emily Brontë text about kind of the generational traumas between two families living on the moors, the Earnshaws and the Lintons, and like many other adaptations of Wuthering Heights, kind of just centering on the whirlwind romance between Cathy Earnshaw and Heathcliff. Two children bonded by trauma, who grow up to be, will they, won't they, in a way that becomes extremely toxic for the both of them and for everyone in their vicinity. It stars Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, two Australians playing Brits, which is pretty funny, and has been seen by some as, shall we say, blasphemous to the original text, but seen by others as sort of, this is a fan fiction version of Wuthering Heights, right? Seen through a very, very contemporary lens.
Nice, brilliant. Now, we had a brief chat before this recording and about a couple of the films, and I'm quite consistent in my, no, don't talk about it, because we want to save our initial reactions for the podcast, right? So that listeners get a chance to kind of hear us responding to each other.
Yeah.
So one of the things that did come up from that chat was that, William, is this the first time you've seen Romeo and Juliet?
It is.
Wow.
Gosh, this podcast is bringing me all sorts of ways of filling in cinematic gulfs in my knowledge.
Good Lord.
We never studied it at school.
Did you know what you were getting into
Yes.
before you hit play?
Yes. I knew it was going to be, pretty out there. I knew it was going to be super 90s, and oh boy, super 90s it was.
Wow.
Yeah, like everyone I know studied this at school.
Yeah.
Because as an English teacher, what else is better to do than to play like the hip new version for kids?
Yeah. Which,
yeah.
of course, has the real dialogue, so you get away with it. This isn't 10 Things I Hate About You or the other films that English teachers often teach, which are purely, largely based on Shakespeare plays. It feels legit because it is. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going straight in there.
Go.
But the thing that works about the film, from an English teacher perspective, being one of the two at this table, is you aren't. It's not a cop-out because you're not just saying, oh, this is what happens, guys. You're actually exposing them to the language in a way that hitherto, I think only Kenneth Branagh had done well with Much Ado About Nothing in terms of being able to use the source text, the source dialogue, and make it comprehensible. So that if you're watching this, you go, well, I have no idea what wherefore means. Actually, to this day, and we'll talk about this, nobody does. But do you know what I mean? They might not know what hitherto means, but within the context of what they're seeing on screen, they do. Well, that is gold. And we have to assume that to a large extent, some of the people in the Globe, the illiterate, the illiterati, the groundlings standing at the front of the Globe Theatre back in the day, didn't necessarily understand all of the words either. But
well, of course they didn't, because he was making up words as well to fit the
And that's
rhythms,
right.
and there was a lot of creation.
But they didn't all come out. I mean, I've stood there as they all come out. They're not all coming out going, well, I didn't understand a word of that, are they? They're all going, that was amazing. I totally got what was going on.
Yeah.
So there we go.
What did you think, William?
I have mixed thoughts about this movie. First of all, oh boy, is this movie in your face or what?
Yeah.
Like, from the get-go, from the very first frame, it's like edited.
Yeah.
Within an inch of its life, right?
It's operatic, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you've got Pete Postlewaite repeating the monologue.
That's right.
With the text appearing.
Yeah.
And the text changing like a lyric video. And then you've got the characters being introduced with title cards of who they are. And
Yeah.
crash zooms into
The editing.
Paul Rudd.
Yep.
Yeah, so like super in your face, everything about it, right? I miss the 90s and these fashions. Like, my God, if we were to like bottle the 90s up, maybe it would be 1996 with this movie and Independence Day came out at the same time. We just
And Heat.
And Heat. Oh my God.
And The Usual Suspects.
Wow, what a year.
Oh,
And
What a-
Clueless.
What a time. Yeah. What a time
This is
to
like
be alive.
peak
Peak
90s.
90s.
Yeah.
And for the most part, like, it really worked. Unfortunately, and this might be contentious, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. I just thought the film was really, really let down by its two leads. I thought Leo and Claire were both like
Insipid.
No. Do you know what they reminded me of? They reminded me of high school drama kids doing a high school production of Romeo and Juliet. The delivery compared to everyone else, even the younger cast, like we have a little baby-faced Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Just look at him. He's so
Yeah.
young.
Miriam Margolyes.
Yeah.
She's great.
I'd forgotten.
Even Annette Bening turns up.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like a little. She's like a newscaster. Come and crush a glass of wine. Or
And,
what she
and
says.
speaking of Heat, the woman I thought was Jessica Lange, of course, isn't. It's Diane Verona, who was
The mother?
is the mother,
right,
and
yeah.
she is OTT.
Is she? No, she
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
And also watching it, you think all these men are dead. Brian Dennehy died. Paul Sorvino, Myra Sorvino's dad, died. Pete Postlewaite. I mean, obviously, loads of people have died in the last 30 years. I get that, but it was astonishing to be thrown back into that 90s time.
when they were just everywhere.
They were just
Especially like Postlewaite, my goodness. Although John Leguizamo, again, has aged
Oh,
like
my-
a fine wine.
And he is still around doing the same awesome stuff, right?
Yeah.
And to see him in this film, and then Tu Wong Fu is a film we did before this as a drag queen, but
Yeah.
then to see him in this movie, and then to see him in Moulin Rouge, where he's
Moulin
playing
Rouge.
Toulouse-Lautrec.
Yeah.
What a range!
Yeah.
Just phenomenal.
So I think even the younger actors, like the Paul Rudds and the Leguizamos of the world, like I think it felt like they have a much more natural grasp of the dialogue, whereas with Leo and Claire, it felt so clumsy. I don't know. It was this real disconnect for me. I think Leo does slightly better than Claire.
Yeah.
But they both kind of fall into that uncanny valley of, okay, this really isn't working for me.
I guess two things I would say, maybe in defense of the film, not to try and invalidate what you're saying, because you make such an interesting point, but two things I would say. Dear Old Romeo and Dear Old Juliet are pretty much And actually, in the play, they're not the only straight characters, but in this film, they are pretty much the only straight characters, right? They're not over the top.
Everyone
Even the
else is
police
crazy.
captain's over the top. Harold Perrineau as Mercutio is always over the top, and so on. So they're playing it straight and earnest and all about love, but also. You're quite old for this to be your first time watching it, and if
I
you'd
should have
watched
seen
it,
this at 14.
if you were back in the day, you would have gone, "Oh my God, Leonardo is the most good-looking guy you've ever seen in your life."
Do you know what? That guy, even at 21, could smolder like no one's
He
business.
I think it was
so
9. He was 19.
handsome.
He was 19 when he was cast.
Yeah, but he was 21 when he made it
Right,
because
and she was under 18.
17.
Yeah.
Because originally Baz Luhrmann wanted Natalie Portman, who was
Yeah.
13, which of course would
No,
have been.
I think she was 16, but she looked 13.
No, she was 13 originally, and she said, "No, I'm not. No." Everyone agreed they weren't really comfortable with that. Honestly, I read this in a thing. I read it on the internet, Jeremy.
Because I thought she was 16, but she looked 13.
Natalie?
Yeah, whereas Claire Danes, who's 17, she looked, and she also Natalie Portman made Leo look really old.
Oh, I
whereas
see.
Claire Danes, who was
Of course.
similar in age, but
Yeah.
they looked similar in age.
Yeah. And also, do you know what's funny? And I know that we're leaping ahead a little. It's quite funny. I thought about the fact that Kate Winslet and Leo became such good buddies around that time doing Titanic, and they're still friends to this day. So I thought, I wonder if Claire Danes is still friends with Leonardo. So I Googled it, and apparently not really, no. Apparently they didn't get on that great on set because she found him really immature because he was pranking and being like a
And he was
21-year-old.
partying. They went out partying.
Right.
Just the whole
And
time.
she's a serious young lass. And of course, we know she's serious now as Carrie Bradshaw and everything she's ever been ever since. But I can imagine Claire Danes finding him just a little tiresome. But they were, when we didn't know that, watching them, we talked in the last episode about chemistry reads and whatnot. We female viewers in particular of a certain age absolutely fell for them being in love and it being completely lovely.
Cameron, he literally was selling Titanic as Romeo and Juliet on the Titanic, and when he saw Leonardo and Claire, he said, "That's my leads." So he asked them both, and, and with a bit of conversation, Leo joined that project. Claire Danes turned it down, and they both were very aware of how this film, as in Titanic, on top of Romeo and Juliet, would jettison them to a level of superstardom, and they had to make that choice.
Typecast them as well, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm glad he didn't repeat that coupling.
Yeah,
because
I think it worked well in how it worked out.
In Titanic, yeah.
William, I appreciate what you're saying. I don't agree with you. And
you're wrong.
I don't,
okay, that's what I wanted to say. No.
and I think it's because of what Sarah's saying, in the sense that they have to play a version of this script, that we have to fall in love with them falling in love, and they play it so real. Like, I love the sparring that
real
happens.
teenagers.
Yeah, just like the sparring. I mean, that first interaction they have where Juliet is finishing Romeo's lines and she's outsmarting Romeo, and I feel that with Claire. Like, she's got this wonderful match in Paris, but she's not really interested in him. He's, for all intents and purposes, the perfect match. He's an astronaut, for goodness sake. But she's, the love between them is, you have to feel that immediately in that moment when they look at each other through the
glass,
the aquarium,
which is lovely.
The good Desiree song, not the terribly lyricked That's Life one, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know there's so many things about this movie that trivia, which I'll try and pepper it through without just the. But do you know that? So they had a great time filming. Leo and Baz and all of them became really good friends, but they just partied a lot down in Mexico because they filmed it in Mexico.
Oh.
But do you know that the hair and makeup person got kidnapped and ransomed back to the production for a whopping $200?
No.
So I think they just paid it and got him back.
Wow.
But Baz Luhrmann said it was just one of, he said you can make a movie of the making. There could be a movie of the making of the movie with the things that happened. And he said that poor Claire Danes couldn't party because she was underage. Not that I necessarily think she would have wanted to.
No.
I was shocked when one of the scenes on the beach, you could see a real thunderstorm move through the scene. It was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
How do they do it? And they incorporate it into the scenes, like the Tempest.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Baz Luhrmann was planning to make this film after Strictly Ballroom, which, as you know, is in my top 10 of all time. This, Romeo and Juliet, is my sister's favourite film of all time, by the way. So I watched it with her before school, before high school. Anyways, they wanted to make this film. He saw a picture of Leo in a magazine going, that's who I want. And then I go, we need to find an actor like that. They're like, oh no, he's a brilliant actor. What? So he said to him, look, I want you to be in the movie. I'm not sure. How about you come see me in Australia, in Sydney. I'll pay you business class tickets. You can come down. We'll make a little show reel. Leonardo said yes, cashed the business class tickets in, got economy coach tickets for all of his friends and him, came down and had a blast in Sydney, and they made this little clip, and Baz Luhrmann said that little show reel is amazing, and he said that's what they used to get the funding from the studios. But just Baz's vision for this is phenomenal, and I think, I love Moulin Rouge, but that's when he's starting to really get into the CGI of it all, which I think ultimately hurts his movies. We've talked about this.
It leads to Elvis.
It leads to Elvis, right, which is, like you said, Tom Hanks on a blue.
It's too much.
It's just too much. But I think Strictly and Romeo, both of them, they're Baz at his full potential, utilising collaboration. He works with these musicians as well. I mean, let's talk about Radiohead writing 2 of their greatest songs for this movie. And it's just... I love this movie.
It is a vision.
Every time I watch it, I love it.
It really is a vision. You're absolutely right. They didn't have to edit it within an inch of its life like they did. Nowadays, do you know the funny thing is, in 96, we didn't know how terrible young people's attention spans were going to be. But it's the most prescient thing in a way. Do you know what I mean? To be thinking, if I'm going to get kids or young people, teenagers, to watch Shakespeare, not only do I have to have Leonardo at the front of it and a girl. You see, the interesting thing is, let's assume, just because I feel like making generalizations, that the target audience here, say, is teenage girls more than teenage boys. They need to fancy Leo and want to be, what's her face? Claire. Do you know what I mean? And Claire Danes is not the most beautiful young woman in the world, and isn't to this day, but she is very accessible, and she is the sort of person that you can identify with. So what you want is to be able to identify with Juliet and fall in love with Leo. So in that regard, it was clever casting.
Right.
That's my sort of feminist take, my older lady feminist take on it. But to be able to update it, thank goodness he didn't do the Zeffirelli sort of, we're going to have them all in their old-fashioned costumes. And such that, right at the very beginning, because he's so pure with the lines, draw your gentlemen, put down your swords. But the fact is, he's just given us a shot of the pistol or the revolver or whatever, the pistol with the word sword,
It's
950
so
on it.
goofy.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's camp. It's very camp.
But
the whole thing.
but it's so nicely done, because then he stops us from going,
Mercutio
but they're
has
not
a gun
even
called-
holding.
Mercutio has a gun called Dagger.
Which he
It's like-
throws on the
Right.
ground
Yeah.
and then stabs with a piece of glass.
I know.
They're fighting on a stage
So
on the beach.
That's right, it's a
clever.
literal stage.
Yeah.
So Baz has thought of everything here.
So when I was at university, I got to the final semester, and I had to take an additional course to finish my degree. I'd done some maths wrong in the first semester, and the one that was
Do you
going to
mean
work...
you literally failed a maths paper?
No. I didn't do enough.
I got some maths wrong.
I just didn't do enough papers in my first semester.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I had to do this additional course, and the one that I chose was the one that I kind of had to do was Shakespeare on film, and I sort of grumbled a bit along. Turned out to be the greatest course I ever did in my whole degree, because we had to read the plays and watch the films and then talk about it. And
Did you do Branagh as well? Did you do like Much Ado and stuff?
I think so, but I can't quite remember. We did a lot of Kurosawa and lots of things. Orson Welles. Anyways, the lecturer was this wonderfully, really learned, older lecturer, and he'd been in the UK when certain massive, big, significant, 60s Shakespeare productions were happening. But he said that this film, he was quite critical of it when it came out, the sort of MTV versioning of things. But as he's watched it, he's been more and more impressed at understanding how they've taken themes and subtext and then they've made it visual.
Yes.
So, of course, the famous balcony scene happens down by the pool.
Yeah.
But then the ways that that's working, there's other things happening in the text that they're kind of drawing out. Or if, Mercutio's, the queering of Mercutio, right? There's always hints that his love for Romeo is there and he's frustrated by his obsession with love and the Queen Mab speech, right? So making him this sort of draggy character, just very goofy, camp, on the nose.
Yeah. Oh, but alluded to.
Alluded to in the text.
Yeah.
I think there's a real confidence in they know what they're doing. I mean, I guess Baz went to drama school, right? They must have studied Shakespeare, and he's a learned academic.
Yeah,
I'm sure he co-wrote it with someone or co-edited it with someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we move to talk about...
Can I just say one thing from an English teacher
One
perspective?
more thing that Sarah wants to say.
Okay, yeah, thank you. No, this is about the word wherefore. Now, you'll know this, Jeremy. You may know this, William. But here's the thing, yeah? We all grow up going, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? And we all grow up thinking what she's saying is, Romeo, Romeo, where are you, Romeo? But no, wherefore means why. So then you have to spend a whole period teaching your class that what she's really saying in that bit is, why do you have to be a Romeo? Why do you have to be Romeo and a Montague? And that's where she goes, a rose would smell so sweet with any other name, lali lala. So I just thought I'd say that to you listeners, eh?
Well, you get that. I mean, I say to my students, like, a good actor, they will communicate the meaning whether you understand the words or not. And Claire Danes, to her credit, she does that in that moment. You pick it up on her face when she's walking past him, and there's that whole sort of Looney Tunes moment where she can't apparently see him right next to her.
Yeah.
On the like hedge, but she says, she's like, "Wait for out thou Romeo." Like, you get it. You get the story that she's frustrated because she's got this instant connection with my only love sprang from my only hate.
Can I also just say it's a 2-hour movie? Praise be, and it will be the blooming editing that got it that way because it's not a 2-hour play. But it's funny though. Does it say? I can't remember what the actual line of the play is at the beginning, where it says which will be the 2 hours on our stage, or does it say 2 hours?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, what if it says? What if Shakespeare was like, which will be the 190 minutes of our play? No, but anyway,
the 5-act structure.
That's right. Yeah. But anyway, all right. Wuthering Heights.
Quote unquote.
Kate Bush.
That is the only way I even knew of it. I've never read it.
No, neither have I, so I don't know the story.
Had you read it?
No.
Ooh!
We're going
Oh, so we don't even know what's different.
That's right! So we might be English teachers, but we're not Brontë!
Can I make a guess, though? I don't think feeling up the eggs in a sexual way is in the book.
Yeah, no.
Just guessing.
It's described in the whole chapter.
I think there are. I believe there are liberties taken, but I didn't know anything about it.
Okay. Can we before we start talking?
Yeah.
Let's give it a score each out of 10.
Yeah, no. Well, I gave it 4.5 stars, which is
that?
9.
A 9. So
this is the maths that he's not good at.
So 4.5 times 2 is 9, isn't it? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
7. I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Oh, I would give it a 2 out of 10.
Wow!
This is good. Who wants to start? So positive or negative? Should we go downhill? Should we run up that hill? Thank you.
I thought you normally start with, had you seen it before? No, wait. Did you know? I didn't know the story.
Yeah. Which we've established, right? None of us knew it.
Yeah, didn't know the story at all. And I didn't even know anything about it until my friend sat in a spa pool when we were 19, and she was very drunk, and she doesn't know how to sing, and she was singing in a very high-pitched voice, Heathcliff, it's me, Kathy, I'm coming home. And I was like, how drunk are we? This is terrible. Honestly, never heard the song before.
I think if you ever try and attempt that song, you are drunk.
Well,
right? Like, 'cause that is a...
But I'd never heard the song before that, so I was just like, oh, Claire, don't give up your day job. And then, decades later, heard that song and went, oh, it's an actual song, and still was none the wiser about Heathcliff and Kathy. But I would say 2 absolute bloody idiots, and I feel the same way about Romeo and Juliet. So as it happens, we've paired 2 stories that are classics where I have absolutely no empathy, sympathy, or time for any of the 4 of them because they make terrible choices and they behave like idiots.
They specifically mention Romeo and Juliet
in
Wuthering Heights,
They do.
which is we were watching and going, okay, well, this is a good choice.
Yeah. So there we go.
I mean, I think one of the issues that I have with the Wuthering Heights marketing is that they market it as one of the greatest love stories ever told. But even I knew Wuthering Heights isn't a love story. It's Gothic literature. It's about obsession and revenge.
It is a love story.
Well,
They love each other and can't be together because they can't get their together, but they can't be together.
My understanding is that is just part of Wuthering Heights, right? Like, again, reading way too much into it after the fact. Like, they cut out the entire 3rd act of the book. Like, it's just not there after Kathy dies. Heathcliff goes insane, and it's about this finally...
We don't want to see that.
This dynasty, right?
I want to see that.
No, that's sad.
He ends up exhuming her corpse and wanting to make love to her. Like it's
We should have shared it with the bride.
I'm surprised that she didn't include that because, with Saltburn, right? There's that whole sequence where he makes love to the grave.
Yeah. She could have done that.
But like,
how awful.
It's like this is a sprawling dynastic tale of these two families. And for most adaptations, my understanding is they just focus on the romance because that's what people remember most from it, right? It's scintillating.
Yeah.
I found the film, I went into this film with very tempered expectations, which I think is why I came out of it having a relatively good time. I talked about in our podcast before that I really love Emerald Fennell's work set piece by set piece, but I'm usually quite disappointed with how it coheres together, especially the endings of both Promising Young Woman and Saltburn. I think that the music was going to be interesting. I expected Charlie XX to be more of a feature. I'm kind of glad that she wasn't actually, but I thought it was going to be more stylistic with her sort of electro pop coming through. I was excited to see Margot Robbie. I was excited to understand, a version of the story. So I was happily
Did you think Margot and Jacob did well? I do.
I thought Margot did. I thought Jacob did good acting. I just think he was miscast. I think he's too young for that role.
I thought Margot was miscast.
Yeah, right.
I thought she was too old for the role.
No, but that's so
because it's supposed to be a teenager. It would make more sense if they were both teenagers.
But if you see, because he's tall, we're meant to think, he must be a grown-up. See, because no. But
have you seen? There's a really great thing. I think it's in Kimmy Schmidt or 30 Rock, and it's like, I think it's 30 Rock. Is Kate Blanchett even good, or is she just tall?
but I mean, I didn't mind so much about the age difference, but I hear what you're saying. But then, in a way, why are we worried about that if we haven't read the book?
I just found that what I was seeing on screen, there was a mismatch between the levels of experience and what he was going through and how he was presenting to me with his age.
I on the other hand just felt like they're both acting like petulant children.
Yes.
And they look like full-grown adults.
Yes.
It was this a disconnect in the opposite direction.
But and I hear you, and I feel that. That's how I feel about them, and that's and perhaps that's what makes Romeo and Juliet forgivable, is that they are children behaving like idiots. But the interesting thing is the sex, which I know is not in the book. I think I just got a bit sort of swept up in the romance and the chemistry of it all. And I also love the northern accent. And I think his was great. And I think she was terrific. And even though I thought their behaviours were ridiculous and annoying, I wasn't annoyed and turned off them. And quite often I'm very annoyed and turned off young people making stupid decisions on screen because I don't have any truck with that whatsoever anymore. But with them, I just went along with it all. And I didn't mind. And that, I would say, I would place that at Emerald's feet for giving me this cinematic experience, the costumes and the moors and the music and the rain and the fact that people have said that it was a very, I think they use the word moist. I'm serious. People apparently...
The bread making scene?
Yeah. But it is very, what is it? ASMR? ASMR and all that.
Moist.
And our lovely, our number one fan, Dan, who's currently listening to us from Vietnam, reminded me that a lot of the reviews have said it's a very wet or very damp or possibly even very moist movie, which of course the moors and all that
Muggy.
are. It's
foggy
and all that.
Swampy.
I read this hilarious thing in The Guardian of a woman, it wasn't The Guardian, it was Vulture, and she basically wrote her review from the 137 notes that she made watching the film. So it's a little bit like a live blog, which I thoroughly enjoyed having seen the film, where she's just like, I don't know, I would have made that choice, or, normally it's a red flag if a man breaks a chair, but she's really cold, so I'm going to forgive him that one, and that kind of thing.
Can I please share with you my absolute highlight of the film?
Yes.
Yes,
And that is the performance by Hong Chau.
Oh,
Who plays
amazing.
Nellie.
Yeah, poor
And
Nellie.
I'm a big fan of Hong Chau. I remember seeing her in Treme years ago. She played there was the sort of the Vietnamese fisherman's daughter, and she becomes quite a key character in one of the characters' lives. And then, of course, Watchmen as Lady True. She is phenomenal as the villain of that piece.
In the movie or the show?
The TV series.
Oh.
she's just wonderful, kind of strange, highly intelligent, megalomaniac. And so then to see her in this role, and Nellie, she's, I mean, as someone who doesn't know the story, she's significant because of the way she gets screen time, and she's this wonderfully complicated character, and again, I don't know what it's like in the book, but
Apparently,
not wholly a villain. She's
not a villain. Apparently, in the book, she isn't at all.
She's the narrator of the book.
So apparently,
So it's all her POV, or at least to start with.
So apparently she isn't a baddie in the book, and apparently in the book they're really, really horrible to her. There are touches of horribleness.
I got that she's horrible, but they're horrible to her. I also I love that she feels penitent, but I also feel like she was making choices whilst might have been a mixture of being a bit mean, but also you could argue that her not alluding to the fact that he heard it, she's actually looking out for her best interests. Because at that time...
Yeah, but the face acting says no.
Well, it's mixed, I think. There's room for interpretation anyway.
Yeah.
I just thought she was phenomenal and just what a joy to watch, and I want to see more Hong Chau in films.
I think the fact that Margot Robbie, or Kathy, stupid name, by the way. Kathy is a stupid name for a protagonist.
What a stupid name.
It's a stupid name for I don't know.
Catherine.
It's like calling her Sharon or something. I really
Karen. Okay, you're like this.
I'm alienating listeners.
In the book, her daughter is called Kathy the Second.
Really?
Yeah.
Kathy too.
Kathy too, yes.
Oh dear.
She has a daughter in the book?
Yeah.
What?
Wait.
Yeah, because it's dynastic, right? It's 3 generations of people, and everyone just focuses on the central generation.
It makes me want to read the book.
Doesn't she have a child in this?
No, she dies in her...
And then she dies?
Yeah.
Well, Emerald, really... So can I just say, I hadn't read the book, and I don't know if you know this, but I write reviews professionally. So I thought to myself, I'm going to get letters to the editor saying you need to fire this reviewer because she doesn't even know her classic literature and she purports to be an English teacher. So, somewhat defensively, I took along my lovely colleague Rose, who, by chance, Wuthering Heights is her favourite book of all time. She's read it about 5 times and reads it every couple of years. So she really had skin in the game. And that was a really great angle to write the review. If you've read it and you love it, this is what this person thought. If you don't have a clue, but you're interested in the film, this is what Sarah Watt thinks. And Rose absolutely loved it. Didn't have any issues whatsoever with the remixing of it, because she, in her opinion, it was very, very true to the themes of the book and very true to the tone. And she didn't mind tuppence that Nellie is a little bit more evil, and she didn't mind tuppence that the baby died and la 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 la, because she was so swept up in this is what the book feels like to me. And I think that's a really valid interpretation for a film that's in quote marks.
That's what
Do you know what I mean?
That's for me, that's what makes a successful book to film adaptation. I always get frustrated when people criticize a film and say, well, this didn't happen in the book, or they didn't do this. And I'm like, hang on, it's a different medium. You've got to break it apart. You've got to put it back together again. So I appreciate that in terms of how it feels, the essence of the story.
Yes, and arguably, from an English teacher's perspective, it's arguably more important perhaps to get the essence of it. I mean, there's no point doing a blow-by-blow adaptation that doesn't feel like the book, if you get what I mean.
And I mean, I would say this film is a blow-by-blow adaptation. All right, William.
Are you going to put that in? Is that suddenly... No, I mean, is that suddenly going to become our
little snippet?
Yeah.
A little sting. William,
right.
why a 2?
Okay.
Yes.
I have a lot of notes here. Where to start? Well, let's go back to our talk on Shakespeare. I'm gonna, dig deep and pull out that old quote from Macbeth. Here we go. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Oh,
guys, this
You're calling
film,
Emerald an idiot?
Yes. Oh. I've disliked every single one of her movies, and I've tried to really like them. Yeah. I know we did an episode on
Promising Young
Woman, and that was a movie whose ending I was like, no. Like, you have just invalidated the entire movie up to this point. And I think I read it was studio mandated, so it's like, okay, I kind of get that. But like, that just ruined the movie. And I mean, we've talked a little bit about my views on Saltburn, which is just all flash and pizzazz for like a really, really dumb twist that I think most of the audience sees coming like a mile away.
Don't remind me of the twist. Because actually, I need to rewatch Saltburn, and I can't remember that there was one. But okay.
It's like, so I guess this was talented Mr. Ripley all along, And it's presented in such a thudding, clodding, like, hey guys, did you see these little details? Right. I don't know.
I agree.
I agree. Really rubbed me the wrong way.
I agree.
And then this one, I think Emerald Fennell is a very, very talented director. She and her cinematographer, like that visual team, also the production design, like they are working in spades.
Costume.
The movie looks extraordinary. Speaking of costume, my favorite of Kathy's frocks is her evil Queen of Hearts outfit.
Yeah.
Where she's like, oh, come in here, won't you?
And of course, that links back to her getting blood on her skirt.
Yeah. Like all of that stuff, like no notes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Kubrick. Very Kubrick.
No notes.
Also, the lighting, the red, green,
So you didn't mind the over-the-top red, black, white kind
love that stuff. Like the more Tim Burton you go, the better.
Tim Burton's a good...
And then, but sometimes, sometimes, I know, guys, you can get just a little bit too Tim Burton.
Like when the bottles
I was going to say, Jeremy.
With the death of the dad, I was like, and also the leeches.
I didn't even mind.
Bottle room.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. It was such a heartfelt scene with
Yeah, he died. And then cut to guy in the world's biggest room in mountains, like buried in mountains of glass bottles.
Yeah.
Like it became comedic. I don't know if it was intentionally comedic.
You're right, it's an interesting choice because in a way it has the bombastic or the ridiculousness of the Luhrmann film, but if it isn't consistent with the rest of the film, then you've got, I think that's a fair point, to go, well, hang on a second, you're either going to be over the top in all ways or you're not. So what was the point of that? Do you know what I mean?
It felt totally off.
Because it didn't need to be over the top.
Yeah.
We understood that he was a drinker. And okay.
And I think I just felt as I was watching the movie, by the time we get to Act 3, it's like, what is this movie about? And when it ends, it's like, oh gosh, the movie is really about nothing, right? It's about vengeance, it's about obsession, but they've told us this for the last literal hour. Like, it's just, it fizzles out in such a major way. I liked the beginning. I thought the very opening shot was brilliant. The sex sounds, and it's like, we're getting into something scintillating.
Yeah, and then of course,
it's the hangman's noose,
and it comes as well.
Yeah,
nice. And and then everyone's sort of in this orgy of. I was like, okay, sex and death.
Yeah,
I know the thesis of this film.
And right. I was like, strapping, guys. We're in. I'm in. And then
I was going to say, never mind. Oh dear. I apologise to our regular listeners if the tone of this podcast doesn't quite meet broadcast standards.
We would call this a moist warning.
And like, do you guys know what this movie heavily reminded me of? Well, first of all, Avatar: Fire and Ash. Because I've sat through 3 hours of this.
Yeah.
No. That's just half joking. No, it reminded me of Park Chan-wook's The Handmaiden, like in a really big way. That's also a gothic romance.
It's hugely big.
It is very, very sexy. There's heavy BDSM themes. It's all about men of power trying to subdue the women in their lives. But whereas I left The Handmaiden feeling like elated, I think I said in the episode when we talked about it, like I was electrified, I was buzzing.
Yeah.
I left Wuthering Heights feeling deflated and just like, oh my goodness.
Did you feel spent?
Oh my god. Oh my god.
I just went home and I made some bread.
That's right. Cracked one or two eggs. Yeah, so that was my experience of the thing. It's like it's beautiful. Production design is awesome. I love. My favorite thing is the skin room.
Yeah,
and it's just like, that is.
I don't
creepy.
remember what's that.
Like her bedroom.
So
Edgar.
Yeah. The colour of
and
her
the mole.
face.
Yeah. He was a great character actually. Edgar.
Yeah.
And so was his sister, was Ward. I thought that was really great.
Well, but I tell you who's hilarious is Isabella. Alison Oliver's performance of Isabella.
Brilliant.
Because every Sense and Sensibility I can't speak for Jane Eyre, but you know, all those Sense and Sensibility ones at least.
As in Jane Austen?
Yeah, all the Jane Austens. You've got the daft girl, who's the one who really just wants to be married off to the vicar or whatever it might be, and she's so fun. And then when you see that she is, dog-collared and oppressed and all that, it's just very interesting. I mean, I didn't, as we've said, I had no skin in the game. I didn't care what they did with it. And I would say, because I don't respect the characters' stupid choices, I had even less invested emotionally in how this was going to go. And I was just like, all right, show me what your version of this terrible story is.
I don't disagree with anything you're saying, William. I just think the stakes for me were so much lower. So I just kind of went along with it, and that was the experience
I was like, what's this going to be like? And because I'm different from you, William, I loved both Promising Young Woman and Saltburn. And do you know what I think is interesting around this table? That the thing that we're objecting to about the end of Promising Young Woman, actually, I don't know specifically which bit of that, and we can't really spoiler it, can we? Hey guys listening, you should go listen to our Promising Young Woman Thelma and Louise podcast, though, because that was a good one.
Don't do that if you don't want spoilers, because we spoil it in that. So maybe watch the movies.
No, I mean go watch the movies, but I'm just saying
so Julia, I messaged our friend Julia. She's on that episode.
Yeah.
I don't think you're on that episode.
No, I was.
Oh,
there was the four of us.
Oh.
And we were at William's house, actually. It would have been a bit creepy if we'd just gone in and recorded without him there.
Yeah, true.
But all I'm saying is, I guess there are two aspects to the ending of Promising Young Woman, and one is horrifying, and one is a convenient sort of tying up of plot.
And I think
it's the second one.
I'm got more of an issue with the first one.
You see, and I'm the woman at the table, and I don't mind the first one. I found that incredibly shocking and sort of quote unquote brave. But I also really love, as we know from 10 years of doing this, that I quite like it when things are tied up quite neatly in a little bow at the end.
My cinephile female friends who watched Promising Young Woman, all of them have really enjoyed that film. So I think that says something that's giving me pause for thought.
Yeah.
But I can't deny the fact that I was frustrated.
And you see, so I love Emerald's Way, and they're never 5 stars. I don't think either. I think both of them were 4.5 for me, possibly even 4. I don't remember. It will maybe depended on how I was feeling. And this was a 4.5 star for me. And actually, it could easily have been a 4, but probably at the time I was reviewing other films that I'd given 4, and I was like, this is better than that.
I don't know. I think watching Wuthering Heights really put into perspective how much I enjoyed both the start of Promising Young Woman and Saltburn and Wuthering Heights. It's like, man, again, as I said, strap in.
Yeah. So she can't sustain it for you. That's the issue.
I think that...
I didn't mean that, but no.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Blow by blow.
I know.
Sustaining, strap in.
That's always happens with double entendres, though. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
There's one, and then, anyway.
One thing you have done this episode is you've name dropped 3 friends. Just want to say that.
Well, I think I want more listeners. And I want them to feel, I want Rose, Julia, and Dan to feel like they're around this table.
Because Julia's mentioned, there was a 4th person you mentioned as well. Your friend who got drunk and sang Claire.
That's true.
Look at that.
I'll have to send this to them and at them, won't I? Do we still at people?
Yeah, I don't know. Can I just say that
yes.
I think the issue with Emerald Fennell is that her films don't always have a clear narrative. They don't always know what they're trying to achieve with their characters. And I guess maybe she's just not interested in that. She's enjoying
the idea.
The idea, like there is a sense of character, but it's like, where do we end? What's the change? What's the shift? What are we trying to achieve here? And I think with a bit of... I do think that the day is coming where she makes a movie where it does work for me, and that'll be one of my biggest films of the year. Because, like you say, William, all of the things that a director is usually responsible for, she does very, very well.
Yeah.
And she's a writer as well.
Yeah.
It's just some of that
and she's an
up.
actress.
True.
Yeah. Well, so and is it fair to say that this is her 3rd film? I'm not sure. She might have done shorts, right? But I think this is her 3rd film.
She did a season of Killing Eve.
Yeah, she did. She became the showrunner. But
so,
yes, films-wise.
She's no dafty.
And she's made, and for all of our criticisms, though her films are always interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd much
rather watch more.
And they do, it's a cliche, but they push boundaries, because there probably is a boundary around a text as sacred as Wuthering Heights that says, well, now steady on. There was no horse whipping in that.
We've done a really nice comparison. I think Baz Luhrmann's career and her career, there's a real, there is a connection there, right? They are both very visual, collaborative, exciting directors.
And it's interesting that you chaps have always criticised Elvis, because I loved Elvis and went 5 stars.
That was one of your films of the year, I remember.
I thought it was fabulous because for me it was an extraordinary cinematic experience. And I remember as a small child watching movies, and I remember going, oh my goodness, images on screen plus music equal and the most incredible feeling I've ever had.
Is that maths?
I'm
getting it.
Equal magic. And that's what equals cinema for me. So for me, there is a lot to be said for, you throw in a bit of Tears for Fears in a movie and you've got me sort of thing, which actually I'm thinking of that wonderful scene in Donnie Darko where he goes into slow motion and Drew Barrymore, I think it is, as a teacher, comes out of the high school and we hear Head Over Heels, and it's just the most ecstatic, for me, cinematic moment.
But I think we're all massive lovers of music and film, aren't we? And I think my issue with Elvis is really...
Was that Jacob Elordi, by the way?
That was.
No, it was Austin Butler.
Wait, Elordi was in the other Elvis movie, was
yes, he was in Priscilla.
That's right.
Which I was less enamoured of, which has nothing to do with that, so that's not...
So Elvis for me is just, I feel that the story, again, to do a narrative, the story was finished far earlier than Elvis's life story was finished, so the movie kind of carried on. But I still had a great time up until that point.
But you see, I have no investment in Elvis. I couldn't care less.
But I don't care either, so I felt the film was trying to be honest, listeners, go listen to our Elvis and Strictly Ballroom episode. You're a Promising Young Woman and Thelma and Louise and Elvis and Strictly Ballroom.
Yeah.
All right, final thoughts. Who's to kick us off?
All right. For both movies, there was one quote that popped to mind, which is from Garth Marenghi's A Dark Place.
Oh.
You guys know that show?
No.
It's a work of genius. But anyway, Garth Marenghi, who is a Stephen King-esque author, he says this on interview: I know authors that use subtext, and they're all cowards.
I love it.
From both Baz Luhrmann's version of Romeo plus Juliet and Emerald Fennell's version of Wuthering Heights, it's like, oh yeah, just hit me in the face with that. Like that's I mean, you mentioned Charlie XCX. XCX. Gosh, some of those songs were just so... They could not be more on the nose. I remember hearing one, I looked it up afterwards, the lyrics, and yes, the lyrics are, I think I'm gonna die in this house. And it's repeated 8 times.
That's Charlie XCX. There's a reason why the TikTok generation love her.
Oh, man.
No, I love Charlie XCX, don't get me wrong.
But that's fine in a song, right? But I agree with you, William. I find on-the-nose songs that basically tell you what is happening on screen.
Anakin,
really
you're
annoying.
breaking my heart.
My heart is breaking.
Yeah, so obviously I had issues with both movies. I appreciated both movies. I just felt super let down by Wuthering Heights because it's just like, what are we doing here? It's pretty. I saw it in wonderful, Dolby Atmos, which that was nice. The sound was pretty good. But yeah, just the
squelch.
The squelching, the moist squelching, the squeals, yes, of the pig, Okay, so. But like as a film, it was just like, oh gosh, this is not working for me. And Romeo and Juliet, I loved how in your face it was. I loved all the cinematic tricks, the crash zooms, the whip pans, just the colors, whatever filters they were using. It was like, man, this feels like the 90s. And for me, it was just the leads that didn't quite work for me personally. Yeah.
Nice. really love Romeo and Juliet. You know, I'm a big Baz Luhrmann fan. I do feel like his films don't always work as a collective piece, and I think the cracks of that are in Romeo and Juliet. It is sort of set piece after set piece, and there's a thing of like the first half an hour for me is the best part of the movie, and then the rest of the film kind of just carries on. Same thing with Moulin Rouge as well, whereas as you know, Strictly Ballroom is the opposite. It just builds and builds and builds and builds to this wonderful crescendo. I watched it this time slightly distracted. I was sort of messaging a friend of mine throughout the filming, which was fun. They hadn't seen it before and were watching it at the same time. And so it kind of was interesting to sort of treat it like it was little episodes of MTV. I mean, the fact that it starts with a TV screen.
Yeah.
And the fact it's the 90s, it is of its time, and I think confidently so, and it doesn't do a detriment to the film itself. Wuthering Heights, like I said, went into it with very meh expectations, sort of whelmed heights, as I was joking with a friend of mine. And the film sort of delivered on those very sort of humble expectations. I will happily see another Emerald Fennell film, but I am still waiting for her talents to truly be showcased in a movie that works for me.
Yeah.
Despite my criticisms of the casting of Jacob Elordi, is his name? I do think that the acting, including him, was fantastic. I thought the father was fantastic.
He was. That's Martin Clunes,
Right.
who is a British actor who's been around forever. He played Doc Martin on the television, and I thought, oh, here we go. You know, you'd think he was on his way out, and it was probably the best I've ever seen him do.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
The right amount of caricature
Yeah.
versus sort of pathos, and so I thought it was brilliant, and I really appreciated the complicated relationship between him and the kind of his kids, you know, both his daughter and his surrogate son. So there were some really good things in there. But I also agree with you, William. I think that the film, big question mark, ultimately what it's trying to do. It's interesting that there's this dynasty that's in the story that's not in the film, but also I think it was the right chopping of the story to do. It's just they needed to figure out why the death was, what it was saying about their obsession. Sarah, final thoughts?
We didn't really mention, I mean, you mentioned a little bit about Hong Chau, but one thing I would say, I enjoyed very much what we used to call colourblind casting, and we don't even think about it anymore. Given that there had been brouhaha from the purists about the fact that Jacob Elordi, just like Ralph Fiennes before him, is not a person of colour, and how Heathcliff is meant to be, blah, blah, blah. To which I argued, actually, Jacob Elordi is of Basque heritage and is Australian, so he's not exactly, you know, as white as the driven snow, but whatever. I love the fact that we had a Vietnamese Nellie... what's her name? Nellie
I
Dean.
don't know, is she Vietnamese?
Oh, she's Thai, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's played a Vietnamese character.
That's right. We have a
Tremaine,
Thai Nellie Dean. We have a British Pakistani Mr. Linton. And it was just, and a couple of Aussies playing Brits, you know. So I thought all that was really lovely. Interestingly, I can't be bothered to watch Wuthering Heights again, but I am very looking forward to going back to Saltburn and Promising Young Woman. Romeo and Juliet, I hadn't watched for a little while, and like you, Jeremy, I wasn't 100% focused on it because I've seen it many times and I really just needed a memory refresh, and I was a little bit like, oh my God, this is fast, isn't it, you know? And when you say, William, how 90s it is, it's so of its time. I wonder now whether the youth of today would watch it and would feel that it was a little bit anachronistic or something, you know what I mean? Like it's trying too hard or whatever. But I still think it is brilliant, and I think it is of its time because I think if you watch it closer in age or time to when it was made with those young people, you'd fall for both Romeo and Juliet much more. And the last thing I would say is I am very critical of both of the source materials. I could write an essay or speak an essay about the idiocy of any human being falling in love and thinking that that's their life partner after a mere 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, and so on and so forth. So I think that Romeo and Juliet is a tragedy of massive proportions, and had they stayed together, they wouldn't have lasted longer than 7 months. That's how long I would have given it. And I have absolutely no time whatsoever for the stupidity of Kathy, mainly, actually. I think she's an absolute bloody idiot. So I think the fact that I can overlook that and still say these are enjoyable cinematic experiences is what matters to me.
So sex, death,
Yes.
stupidity,
Yeah.
moisture.
There we are.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Cinema in Context. If you enjoy our podcast, then please share it with your film-loving friends. You can listen to Cinema in Context on SoundCloud, Spotify, and where all great podcasts can be found. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, which are great places to let us know what you think of this episode, as well as give us suggestions for future films to discuss and compare. Look out for our next episode in a month's time, which will be our 10-year anniversary. 10 years. Actually, this episode marks 120 episodes. We've done 10 years of episodes.
Wow.
So our 10th birthday is next month.
Wow.
Anyways, until then, no ora mai.